Hey, good morning. This is gonna be just a daily vlog. It's not even really like gonna be a day in the life because, I mean, while this is a fairly typical day, it's not a romanticized typical day. It's just a daily vlog. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have more exciting content coming out. I just finished up a romance vlog where I read romance throughout all the month. I've been looking at doing a revision vlog, kind of like my beta reading vlog that I recently did, where it's kind of like a how-to video, but I feel uncomfy putting that video out before going through the revision process again after beta readers. So I'm going through that process right now. Figured I would kind of show what I'm doing, highlight, update, show where I'm at, show my face, because all my content for January was pre-recorded, and then I have to continue to edit the romance vlog, so I have to kind of make this one like short, sweet, snappy. I'm not doing much today, so it feels like it'd be easy to do. I wouldn't have to edit much out. This is a low maintenance vlog. What am I doing today? I am preparing for revisions. There are some prep work things I do before I jump into actually making the revisions, but I do consider this part of the revision process. That's what I'm going to be doing today. As far as a beta reader update, if you don't know what a beta reader is, I do have an entire video dedicated to it. They are my early first readers of my second book, The Solstice Heir. The first book being The Solstice Court, which as a marketing tactic is nowhere near me right now. Just boom, it's that. All of the beta readers are through part 1 of the book. Hi, I realized I didn't really give context to the parts or sections, so I wanted to show this moving forward just so you have a really clear idea of what I'm doing. I have 15 chapters that make up part 1, and right now I'm only focused on these 15 chapters. You can see, because this is in the future, gone through and started on actual revisions in these chapters, and this is my checklist for this. But in this video, I'm reading through these and adding my own comments to each one, and that's not what these check marks are for, because this is the future. I'm only focused on part 1, so I have 15 chapters I need to go through as if my book was only 15 chapters, which is not true, because after I'm finished with all of these revisions, this means I plan on trying to combine these chapters. This is a new chapter. This is marking this chapter as long as one of the main beta reader issues. This one is slow. I also have part 2, which is 13 chapters. I'll be doing the same process that you watch me do in this video for this, so I'll read this section, and then once I'm done reading this section, I will go through and start making revisions and then start check marking them. But I can't do that until I finish part 1. There's part 3, same situation. Part 3 has a total of 14 chapters, and then part 4, the last part, is 18 chapters, making the total for now 61 chapters. With the 2 combination chapters, it's looking like 59, and then there's 1 chapter I might be adding here. I'm not sure if it's going there, and I don't know if it's going to be its own chapter yet, but it might bring me up to 60 as far as the end result, but we will see. The highlights are for moments outside of the main POV. You'll see the 3 different kingdoms represented. Book 2 does take place in the majority of one kingdom, this kingdom, and this kingdom, showing when we go off of the main storyline. That way I can see pacing wise how that's working. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about in parts. Also, I don't use this. This is specifically for you. I have a different checklist. It looks exactly like this, except for their chapter titles. When I say chapter 3, chapter 4, that's me editing for you. I use titles for my chapters, so I have my first chapter, my second chapter's titles in my head, and then I'm editing it for you. So this is specifically for my videos and vlogs if I do anything where I want to update on camera, so I don't have to block out all of the titles of my chapters. So chapter 1 is not actually called chapter 1. It has a title. Chapter 2, same thing. So it seems unhinged, but you know, that's me trying to vlog a process that's supposed to be highly secretive because it's a sequel. Okay, that's all. At this point, 2 have actually already finished, and then the one that's a little further behind, I just sent out like a checkup message to see if they want to either reschedule, if it's the book's not right for them, or if they want to be a secondary beta reader, because after I finish these revisions, I'd love to get a few eyes on it. New eyes, if possible. It being the second in a series, that's a little harder to do. They would need to have read the first book for the second book to make sense. They're very, very connected. So right now, I'm inputting all of the comments from all of the beta readers into one draft so that I can see them all together. Once I'm finished with that for section 1, there's 4 sections. Once I'm finished with section 1 and all of the beta readers' information and comments are put into that first section, I am going to read the first section and put in my own notes. I'm not going going to make any changes. This is part of the revision process, my revision process, of course. Every process is going to be different. I am going to read section 1, and if I have any notes, I'm going to put them in. I have kept up on all the beta reader comments, so I know what they all are. Going into this, this will feel like my first time reading the book in its entirety, like in sequence, without making any edits. I'll only be making notes, so if I do want to make a change, even if it's a period, I'm not going to be making that change at this moment. I'm just going to be trying to read the book as a reader to see what I think and feel about it. And because it's the first time it's in sequence, I think that I'll be able to be a little bit more critical of it. And because I haven't read it out of sequence in a really long time, I feel like I'll catch fresh changes and updates and things like that that I hadn't caught before. And hopefully I can just come at it with like a critical observation eye while still also just trying to read it as a reader and see the areas where it's impossible to just read it as a reader, if that makes sense. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first thing I need to do today is to start putting in all of those comments from all the beta readers. And I guess the first thing I'm going to do is, instead of starting a fresh new file, I'm opening one of my beta readers who finished. Her file also has the most comments, not only because she's finished, but because like she just was very comment heavy. I'm going to duplicate that document so I have all of her comments already completed, and then I will put in all of the other comments into her new duplicate document. And I go into this more in my beta reading video, but I duplicate the document so that when I accept or reject a comment, it doesn't come up for them saying I accepted or rejected it. Instead, their document stays, I don't know, stationary, sterile, what's the word? It's not moving, it's not changing, it stays the same. This is both for my comfort level so that I feel okay rejecting or accepting changes because I'm not thinking about other people's feelings. I'm in the book's best intentions, and because I do care about their feelings. So they're not getting a whole bunch of notifications saying their comments were rejected. Everything that they do is helpful. Even if I don't accept it, I still had to challenge and think about it, but I just don't want to go through the process of telling them every time I didn't accept a change. I don't want to keep adding a whole bunch of context and like rehash the entire beta reader video. So I do suggest that video for knowing my process and how I got to this revision stage. Now I'm just going to open Google Docs. I'm not really moving from this chair for some time. I'll check back in with you after I've kind of like read through these and started putting them in. I would kind of update you and show you what I'm doing. I want to do a screen share because it's really hard to blur everything out. I'll do a screenshot so you can see what I'm talking about, and then we'll just go from there because then I can blur things a little easier. Haha. There we go. So I have my screen split, and on one side I have my draft 5, which this is my official 5th draft of the Solstice Heir. My first book came out after 6 drafts, so it does feel a lot closer now that we're on the 5th draft of this book. And on the other side I have my beta reader, and then I'm just scrolling through, taking each comment I find and sticking it into this draft. If there's an overlap in highlights, here's an example. These 2 comments are almost exactly the same, which I think is wild. If my beta readers are watching this, you guys are in sync. You guys are flowing together, and it's very, very fun, interesting, and reassuring because I know these are my readers, and the fact that my readers are vibing without seeing each other's comments but saying things that are similar, that is very helpful. But every single time I had copy pasted their comment over, and I'll just put it under the original comment from the beta reader that I duplicated comments from. Does that make sense? I feel like it makes sense to me, but I have so much more context. If that doesn't make sense, feel free to always ask questions down in the comments. I'm happy to reiterate. I just went through the first 2 chapters. I see where my chapters need work in a way that I didn't see them before. And I'm gonna sound like such a jerk here. I kind of felt like the first chapter, I mean, it's good. It's really good, but I kind of just felt it was good as in I'm like, I'm done. I'm finished. This is set. And the things that are being brought up and pointed out, this would help it so much. This does need to be fleshed out more. This is not as clear. It's a little floaty. And it's the opening chapter, so it's important. This is from a character that a lot of people find themselves feeling conflicted and rooting for. I need it to be right. I need it to be correct also because the beginning of the book, end of the book mirror each other, so I still want to make sure it's having that balance because I think the ending really does circle back to this beginning moment and it kind of finishes this story arc. Sorry, I had to stop briefly because I was helping my partner with groceries. Yeah, essentially a humbling but very useful experience. But they're not big structural changes. they're very much so clarifying what I'm trying to say in a sentence. On a sentence by sentence basis, that doesn't feel too difficult when looking at revisions. So far, nothing has stood out in any of the comments as being something that needs to fundamentally change. Every single time I'm like, oh, I could explain that better, or like, most people will understand it and one person won't, and I'll be like, should I be just hedging my bets? Should I just keep it? And me going through and reading it for the first time, kind of, will help me add to that narrative. I can either add my notes to a note that already exists and be like, yeah, me too, I also think we should get rid of this, or do I feel like it's coming across in the way that I really want it to? So far, I added the other beta reader that had finished their comments, and now I'm going to add the next. I'm only doing part 1, but by the time that I'm doing the ending, they'll have finished. They're very close. I'm pretty much just doing this for a good chunk of the day, putting in the comments. I'll update you when I do something else, anything else. If movement happens, you'll know about it. Another beta reader comments added. I've heated this up twice now. And I don't know how much time has passed because time doesn't mean anything when I'm writing at all. I'm not gonna look at my clock because everything is shut off on my phone and the noon bell hasn't rang yet. So it's not noon. I am almost finished with this. I just keep adding comments and I'll tell myself I can have a slurp of this every so often. But I did just finish another set of beta reader comments. It just is time consuming. It just takes a lot of time, but I do have like a system figured out. Control Alt F to find it, and I just kind of find the sentence, jot it in, I copy the comment, and I put it over. It's time consuming, it's tedious, it's also making me look at every single comment. And then also some of the time I don't copy over, I can just put a summation of the comment, R:LOL, you know, so that I know that that reader did think that this line was funny. That is useful to know. I don't want to take out lines that people think are funny. I need all of the clout towards my humor as I can get. That's essentially what I'm doing, and I just did it again, so I'm like, I guess I'm updating you, saying I'm doing the exact same thing I was doing before, and I'm going to continue to do that 3 more times. Let's see, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I do. I have 7 beta readers. One of them didn't leave as many comments. One of them left a massive amount. I'm gonna do the one that did the least amount first, and then I'll probably like take a lunch break, and then I'll do the other ones. And then eventually I will get to start reading my book. I would love to start reading it. I also need to do some basic formatting. My format software that I use does most of it. I did upgrade from Atticus to Vellum. Vellum software is like a night and day difference. I was battling against Atticus and I was losing. It was a losing battle with Atticus. My stress levels have decreased substantially. It was just so much faster. I tried the formatting software when I put out the Yuletide debacle. It was so quick. It was crazy. I barely had to do anything. Super intuitive. Unfortunately, proprietary. I think it's only for Mac. I'm not entirely sure, but I think like it's an Apple product, which sucks. But I do really appreciate it as a software and what it did because it did what I needed it to do. Yeah, I wish I would have had an easier time with Atticus, but the bugs were insane and I almost lost like one of my final files because it corrupted. And there's some things you can't do in the final document. You have to do all of the changes in Atticus at the end. You know what? This doesn't need to be a whole thing. I'm just letting you know. I switched. I'm formatting later, and if you do need to use Atticus, there are workarounds, and I just saw an email update saying that they were going to try and make things better. I don't know. They also said that they changed all the leadership, and my only positive about Atticus was the customer service, so I don't know. I hope everyone didn't get fired because that wasn't the issue. The issue is not their customer service. So much for me not cutting things down. You're gonna have to cut some of this down. We are formatting. Formatting has happened. There's going to be small changes to the format that I'll need to make later. As of right now, it's good enough for reading. Okay, I'll give you a little sneak peek just because this is like fun and I feel like it's not spoiling anything. This is currently what my first chapter kind of looks like. Reading it like this just gives me a fresh joy while also making it seem more like a book, so the things that make it seem less like a book will stand out more. I do still have 2 beta readers left to implement notes, but I do need a break from it because it was frying my brain a little bit. The comments were not frying my brain. The small, tedious work, I was starting to like not read them very well, instead just copy and paste them in. And I just figure it's gonna be fine if I don't do them all first and then go back to this. And I'll do some of the more tedious work later. I'm gonna start reading the first chapter of the Solstice Heir and see what I think of it as a reader. I just read through the first 2 chapters and I think I think I found an area I can cut. One of the beta readers had talked about cutting the area, and then they doubled back later and was like, actually, I see that this could be really useful and interesting for this part. Like, it gives it context, so it's not having to be explained at a really like intense moment. And I agree with that, but I also saw areas I'm like, do I actually need to have this? And is this the right time for this slow characterization? Can we not condense this down a little? I need to show how the Aloran trade works, the language, how a certain character isn't as comfortable with their language as they used to be, and just showing a general discomfort, and I need them to feel lost and a little bit scared and paranoid. I think that there's moments I can just cut. I don't need to show him doing the dishes. I know that that's like, yeah, well, of course you didn't need to show him doing the dishes, but it made sense in the moment for showing that because it was showing his character and that he is not in his usual situation. He's not someone who normally would have to do the dishes. So showing that and his humbleness was a good like show of character. I don't think that this character is struggling in people understanding his character, so I don't think we need that extra characterization. I think we know him to be a severely humble person anyway, and he's about to go into a place where he can show off the fact that he's kind of being brought down a peg. I don't need to show him doing the dishes. I just need to show that how the trade works. So we can like cut ahead to doing that and we can be on our way. I hope that I can continue cutting things like this because really right now the book is 608 pages long as a formatted paperback. 608 pages as a paperback, which means it'll probably be around 600 or like 590, 80 as a hardcover. That's not the final page count at all. I would like that to be cut down quite a bit. I understand that the second book in a series is normally longer. I do think that this one will be longer. I don't think it needs to be that long. Just in finding little moments like this, I think that we can cut it down quite a bit. But I need to be really studious about where I do that because I'm not trying to please a publishing company. I'm not trying to cut down part of my story that's important in order to fit a word count. That is part of the reason I didn't go into traditional publishing is I don't believe in cutting down stories for the simple act of saving money. I would prefer to tell my story and have my art displayed in the way that it's meant to, and that is why I will take a larger pay cut in the second book because I still want to keep my prices fairly down, and I understand like everyone has like a bottom line. I want my book to be the story that I'm trying to tell, not the story I'm trying to tell, but I took a whole bunch of it out and emptied it of its contents in order to fit a page count. But if I take out this section, this little section right here, it goes down by 2 pages. Anyway, yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, definitely not cutting anything really from chapter 3. Very much so like how it works, how it is. I'll be making little edits. I did add some comments to like things I could make more clear. Oh, this is my favorite chapter by far, so far. I really like how it turned out. I actually kind of got chills. I love a good fight scene. This one really, I like what it's doing. I like getting to see my character like this. He's not in his final form of his character arc, but you get these little glimmers of who he could be, and I just get so excited getting to see those glimmers of him. And it's just really kind of fun to see him lose a little bit of control here because he is so controlled. He just tries to tamp down so much of himself, but he has no choice here but to let a little bit of himself out. And this is just a fraction of it. Yeah, go man, go! It also means that we're headed to the other side of the map. This is interesting. I'm really getting the pacing and the flow, and we're snapping from here to here. How does that work? How does that feel? And right now I kind of like it, but I am an apologist for one of these upcoming characters. I love them dearly. I mean, I love all of my characters dearly, but I know that I cannot come from an objective, unbiased space. I'm going to try and kind of like center myself and try and find the critical parts of it. I'm really gonna try and just get in there and be a reader that's a little bit more of a skeptic, especially with this character. I'm not as much of a skeptic with this character, and that's probably a red flag for me, actually. There's a scene, there's a moment, a small sliver of dialogue. I remember writing it and just, it hasn't changed whatsoever. It was just very much so this character and like how they would deal with this conflict and trying to nip it in the bud. It has stayed the same throughout, and I just felt that same excited feeling that I got the first time I wrote it. So I went to go put a heart in, then I looked and the same section has been marked by almost all of my beta readers is this being a moment where they're like, wait, I kind of like this character in this moment at least. Like, this is kind of a badass moment, a badass scene. I'm like, see guys, we can like this character. It is really funny to see beta readers react to this character because like I totally get it and I couldn't relate less. God. I really can write an asshole, can't I? I'm at the end of this 4th chapter and right now it's page 28. I have this urge to tone this character down, and it would be ingenuine to tone this character down. This character is partially in this situation because they refuse to be toned down. Damn, I want to because I get so frustrated and flustered by them. I feel this urge to be like, I have control over you. I can make you less. Like, I have a power issue because they have a power issue, and I'm like, I could end you, but I can't because, I mean, I'm trying to write a story here. But, oh, I really dislike them so greatly. Everything that they've said on these couple of pages are so genuine to their character. The beta reader feedback is also really strong. It's validating. I can feel this. This is frustrating. I feel the manipulation. They are upset by this character, but they also are giving me the feedback saying good job. So I'm like, okay, I will keep it. I'll keep it. I hate it, but I'll keep it because it's true. If I changed it, I don't even know why I would. It would just be one of those things where I hate that they exist. Lots of people have to deal with this character, and I'm not going to tone them down because other people don't get to tone this character and their life down. And having that validated on page. Ugh. Next chapter. Oh good, a letter. The formatting for the letters are also going to be really pretty. So if you are a beta reader and you saw like the letters and how like janky and ugly I had them on the Google Doc, they are pretty now. Okay. I like this pacing wise because I'm immediately going into my softest character, my main character. I need this moment after the intensity, like the fun intensity of the first few chapters, going into something that made me feel my entire innards were clenched up, and now I feel like I'm not gonna release my innards. Feel like I can just take a beat. I'm very happy to be here after this. So I at least like the flow of these first 5 chapters. This is very relieving. I'm also making notes as I go though. I did make comments of what changes I want to make. I only made 7 comments. In the 2nd chapter, I had made over 15. The 3rd chapter, I didn't have that many changes. I think I had like 5. All right, I'm going back into reading, and then I'll check back in with you probably like later tonight. That took all day. It's 8:30 right now, and I know that doesn't sound very late. I woke up at 6:30 this morning, so it's also a Sunday, so I have work tomorrow. It took all day, but I got it done. I got all of the beta readers part 1 implemented. One of the beta readers had a lot of comments, and that's not a complaint. That's just a fact of life. And making sure every single one got put in, even if I didn't agree with it yet, if I was on the fence, I definitely put it in so that I could think about it more. And then I continued reading. I had to finish part 1, and I did that too. I do like it. I do see some little changes. It's still nothing big, and I feel like this was a success. It's the start of a really long process. I know that this is not the most exciting vlog, but I did want to do a general update and kind of show a little bit of the tedium of it in case you write and you are feeling like this is maybe tedious or like you're doing it wrong, or you're seeing a more romanticized or exciting version of a revision, which is totally fun. I watch those all the time, but sometimes I can be like, wow, I just spent the day gruelingly going through and copy pasting small tidbits, and it didn't feel romanticized at all. It felt really boring and tedious and kind of mind-numbing, and sometimes I had to pause and stop because there's still critiques of my book. Some of them are compliments. The whole time I'm kind of having a blast, but I also still have to put my ego aside. It takes a lot out of you. And then reading my book as a continuous story without actually making any changes really was a refreshing thing to do, and really did help me gain a lot of understanding of where my book is at in the process, which so far feels on track. My camera's dying. I'm sleepy. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave. I'm putting some Burt's Beeswax lip balm on, so go ahead and leave a bee emoji down below. But whether you do or not, I hope you enjoyed the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye!